group meeting. We're very happy to have you here for an in-person meeting, which hasn't happened for a few years. And thank you to those that are also on Zoom. Just a few housekeeping things. This meeting is being recorded. Please check, make sure your phones are on silent. There are microphones around the room, so it will pick up any side conversation. So please try to keep that to a minimum. And those that are on Zoom, please make sure you're muted. You have some note cards on the table. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can write those on the note card, put it in the basket, and then at the end, we will collect the questions and go over them. So we'll handle questions that way. At the end, we'll have an optional brunch and networking time. So you can switch. The purpose of our meeting here is to build and expand partnerships, evaluate resources, and collaboratively prioritize and improve identified resource concerns. Our objectives are to review the top 3 priorities and funding opportunities under the current NRCS long-range plan for Polk County, discuss new highlights, and present outreach updates and resources offered. This meeting is hosted by the Polk Soil and Water Conservation District and the Polk NRCS, or Natural Resource Conservation Service. And we're glad to have you. I'd like to take this time to have our staff introduce themselves and their role in Polk County. So we'll start with Evelyn.
Good morning, I'm Evelyn Conrad, District Conservation for Polk County. I'm a partner, and I have 2 awesome new staff members. I've gone solo for the past year, so I am delighted to have help. Brandon Steiner is forester with NRCS now, works in the office, and Jesse Warden joined us in December, so they've just been on for a couple months now and are deep in the trenches learning how we do things. So get to know them.
And I'm Morgan Neal, the outreach coordinator for the Polk Soil and Water Conservation District, and I'm happy to not be the newbie anymore. So I'm going to pass it to our new district manager.
Good morning, Seventh Quarter, the district manager is at the end of November for our district. So introduce yourself to me and again, and I'd like to talk to everybody that wants to come. So thank you for coming.
And that leaves me, Mark Bell. I've been with the district for the longest, and I'm focused around with most of the habitats work, and we will hopefully have yet 1 more or 2 more staff joining us, the next time around that we have this again, or at least the next event or so that we have, soon enough in the future as well.
Thanks, Mark. We also have several of our directors here. Our directors work together to plan and oversee the implementation of the district's programs and listen to their constituents in their zone to identify local conservation needs, programs, and services. So I'll start with Zone 1.
I'm Prior Garnett, the director from Zone 1. I farm out in Sheridan.
Thank you. Zone 2.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lindsay McClary. I'm the newly elected director in Zone 2, which West Salem is. So I'm really happy that we're hosting here in this zone. If anybody missed it, there's lots of literature up here, and then the 3 door prizes boxes for your tickets. So thanks for the morning.
Zone 3.
Hi, I'm Eden Olson. I have Lucky Curl Farms in Monmouth, and I'm director of Zone 3.
Thank you. Zone 5.
Good morning, Mike Wilson. Been on the board for about 6 years. I just got back on and was newly elected chair. Happy to be here.
Thank you. All right, so I will turn it over to Evelyn Conrad. We'll start with our first of the top 3 priorities under the long range plan, which there are some copies of that over on the table. If you'd like to take one.
I think I've deviated from the plan just a tad here, so you're gonna hear a lot from me. I'll apologize in advance. I don't typically want to be the whole show, so. I'd like to start a little bit about soil health and water quality, since it's the foundation for everything that we do. For production, and it is the primary solution to water quality. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about soil principles. Am I doing this?
Yeah, the right-hand button should advance.
There we go. So the soil principles are to keep the soil covered, minimizing bare soil, minimize disturbance, so till as little as possible, and then maintain a living root in the soil, so you always have a living crop in the ground, particularly during critical erosion periods, and then diversify crops. Okay, here we are. Which aids diversifying crops, aids in pest management, boosts beneficial and pollinating insects, improves soil organic matter, soil biology, and soil structure. I'm not doing that, so. I'm on a timer. I gotta keep going.
We'll get this.
We're gonna do this in a hurry. There we go. So moving on to that second slide. How can this be accomplished? How do we improve soil health and water quality? Cover crops, perennial crops, and diversity of crops combined with reduced tillage rapidly rebuild soil. Living plants shelter the soil surface and aid in soil moisture retention, and eliminating bare soil and the associated soil crusting that occurs in the absence of organic matters like plants is key to improving soil structure. Soils with living plants year round are higher in organic matter, good soil structure and porosity, and have a higher percolation and infiltration rate because soil microbes that build soil structure are undisturbed and have the components needed to make healthy soil. Diversity of plants improves organic matter, soil biology, root depth, soil structure and porosity, and soil nutrients, and increases soil water holding capacity and nutrient availability of plants. This is a cross section of a native prairie grass system, and I put this in here to show you the variety of root depths and above ground growth in a prairie system. Perennial grass systems have an abundance of soil organic matter. If you never checked out a National Geographic's Tall Grass Prairie, they have an article on roots. You can Google it. It is impressive. The photos that they have taken where they extracted the roots from some of the like big blue stem, little blue stem, and a man 6 feet tall standing next to him, and the roots are still longer. It's just really incredible. I encourage you to check that out. They're deeply rooted and supply their own nutrient needs if managed properly. So the diagram here shows varying depths of root growth and growth in comparison to above ground plants. The shorter the plant development above ground, the less developed the root system will be. So that's why in grazing systems, it's critical to allow sufficient time between grazing rotations and allow plants time to regrow as well at the end of the grazing season, so that plants have time to regrow before winter dormancy. Because plants need enough biomass going into winter for photosynthesis and energy to put down new roots for vigorous plant development in the spring. If plants are overgrazed repetitively, eventually they graze out the most desirable plants. Cows are just like people, they have their preferences. And so over time, you'll reduce that diversity in the stand to a monoculture, which at that point, your nutritional value is compromised, your soil biology marginal, and bare soils are exposed, which opens the landscape to erosion and invasive species. Planting cover crop systems on cropland results in soil and production benefits similar to well-managed pruning pastures or prairies. Cover crops add nitrogen, suppress weeds, diseases, control nematodes, and provide feed for livestock and attract beneficial insects. This shows root depths of a variety of cover crops, and they're categorized. There's winter annual legumes, biennial and perennial legumes, summer annual legumes, winter annual grasses, summer annual grasses, and brassicas. So you can see the variety of root depth there and above ground growth. They chopped that off a little bit, but plants vary in height. Soil microbes feed off root organics, produce soil glue that improves soil structure, porosity, and nutrients available for crop needs. And surface biomass attracts beneficial insects that can be used for livestock forage and also add green manure to the soil, boosting nutrients available for plant use. So the question is often asked, why can't I harvest my cover crop? When a cover crop is allowed to mature for harvesting, the soil and plant nutrients all go to the production of that crop. And at harvest, it's taken off the field. If a cover crop is terminated before plants joint to produce a seed head, then all the plant biomass and nutrient value instead is returned to the soil and helps build that structure, that soil biology, and the microbes associated with it. Cover crops reduce costs and inputs overhead for soil amendments, tillage operations. They aid in weed control, increase beneficial insect populations, and supplemental livestock feed. Most organic dairies in the area utilize cover crops and pasture grazing rotations to boost feed values and feed biomass. And they typically will grow a variety of what looks like lettuce greens, radishes, kale, a variety of clovers and orchard grass, a number of things to get a variety of nutrient and biomass development. In hazelnut orchard systems, the ground is often left bare to aid in harvest. However, during wet years, orchards that have no cover have mud, fields are inaccessible, and producers are docked when they sell their mud encrusted hazelnuts. So field accessibility is critical for harvesting crops. Cover planted between orchard rows requires extra mowing operations during the season and prior to harvest, but improves field access for equipment. Tree rows are kept clean to reduce rodent damage and weed competition for moisture, and also aids in harvest sweeping of hazelnuts. The bottom photo has been seeded to a perennial turf grass that is a low-growing creeping red fescue and has proven to be successful orchard floor of living vegetative cover. In 2015 and 2016, when the area was inundated with water, I don't know if you remember that. We had a lot of flooding here. I wasn't actually here. There were a lot of people could not get into the field to harvest their hazelnuts. But the orchards that had cover like this bottom photo, because that vegetative biomass there absorbs a lot of moisture, provides a mat of turf, they were actually more able to get in and harvest their crops, pick up the nuts, and not get docked as badly from the extra mud, grass, debris there. Researchers are continuing to work towards finding crop alternatives, cover crop alternatives that will work for a variety of crops, cropping systems in the valley. We do have some challenges here on that front. Excuse me. So, and erosion in orchards is a funding pool that NRCS has to assist with this vegetation in orchards to address erosion on vineyards, orchards, and Christmas tree farms. We have $25,000 that is available to improve soil organic matter, reduce surface erosion and sedimentation surface water bodies. That is a multi-county funding pool, and if there's additional demand, we can typically ask for additional funding. So to recap,
Want to advance?
yes, please.
On any land use, cropland, forest land, pasture and rangeland, soil health principles are the same. Finding the right approach to meet soil, plant, animal, insect, and ultimately human needs varies from farm operation to operation. What doesn't change is the soil health, is that soil health directly impacts water quality, either to improve or negatively impact it. The reality is that soil health across every land use improves water quality, production potential, and an ecological balance that is sustainable. Let me do that again. So here are some resources about cover cropping. The Oregon NRCS Plant Materials Center has developed a cover crop selection tool to assist landowners with integrating cover crops into their operations. Orchards, vineyards, cropland fields, gardens, high tunnels, pastures, all have different needs for rotations and integrating beneficial cropping systems. Cover crops can be used to improve soil health, quality, productivity, reduce erosion, and improve water quality. And they help control weeds and prepare the soil for perennial plantings that provide long-term erosion control and benefit water quality. For more information, go to the Oregon NRCS website. The Polk website also has some information. I think I just go right into the next one.
You got more.
All right, and then that brings us to say more of the focus on riparian areas. One of the other major programs that we have that is a combination offer between Farm Service Agency, FSA, the NRCS, and the SWCD in this case, is the CREC program, the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. It is a program that is designed to increase water quality and all the habitat and all that, and that is through the creation and maintenance of of buffers near near stream channels. The eligibility requirements have changed a little bit. Some of the things that have stayed the same. 1 year of ownership plus, you have to have had that on land. It has to be sort of classified as marginal pasture land, ag land, forestry of some sort. And then there is these, then we can go ahead and look at designing these buffers. The buffers have to be a minimum of 35 feet wide. You don't necessarily have to have control of both sides of the creek or anything like that. One side's just fine. The reason why the 35-foot number was come up with is that it's very close to 10 meters, which is what all of the research shows. That's where that amount of length of distance traveled is where you can capture up to 80% of whatever is running off of your fields, say whether they're ag, forestry, brake pad dust if it's near a road, all of that stuff. 80% of it is retained in the soil, captured by the plant matter. If you have a functioning buffer at 35 feet or wider, you get more further out. But but 35 feet is the requirement for it. It is a program designed to help cost share both the creation of this and then also provides a rental rate for the area, for the area that is within the buffer. Essentially, the federal government is renting that land from you, so it comes in the form of a annual payment. There's different rates for irrigated land versus non-irrigated lands, and a few other things that get adjusted year to year in the formulas. We would absolutely have to talk to our folks at FSA to make sure that I don't misstep any of those processes, so I'll skip that. And then we have one of the new options for that program is that we formerly were only able to offer this to stream channels that were mapped and were known to be classified as fish-bearing streams, whether they're seasonal or perennial. It didn't necessarily matter, but they absolutely had to be mapped channels that were fish-bearing. Now we are able to consider things that are not necessarily mapped, but are functioning as riparian area stream channels on folks' properties that eventually, say that do have a significant nexus where we can show where that water is then draining into say a known creek or tributary or something to that effect a little bit later. It's been a program that's had a lot of folks interested in it, but that eligibility requirement has been very sticky to prove for a lot of folks. So being able to relax that definition is something that is really great. And that wraps me up about, say everything for CREP, and I believe we've got that one coming back up for a little bit more.
So back to the top priorities for Polk County for funding as far as the resource concerns. Forestry has been our top resource concern that we have funding for. The funding pool's name is Forest Resiliency in the Face of Climate Change.
Just tell me next slide.
Okay.
Oh,
I just wanted to show you some before and after pictures of treatment. And so this is a pine forest stand, and you can see how the blackberries have grown up into the trees on your left. And post treatment, the trees have been thinned out, masticator run through there to break up all the slash. And thinning treatment of slash was completed, is typically completed first. I'm sorry. Thinning and then slash. We usually follow up with some brush management, and if an understory seeding or interplanting is needed, then we will do that as well. This is a pine stand. You typically have to remove or reduce all of the slash to prevent disease and beetles. Douglas fir management before. This shows 3 different scenarios. We've got an overstock stand bordered by grass and blackberries, so you've got a little bit of fire risk there. A stand in the middle that has had poor tree survival, possibly due to trees not being suitable to the site, or they just brush took over them before they were free to grow. And an overstock stand on the right that is allowing minimal sunlight due to overcrowding by multi-stem maple, conifer thinning is definitely needed. These stands have minimal resilience to fire, growth is hindered, and trees are susceptible to disease. So these are the kind of stands that we work on. Next. Oh, oops. This is Douglas fir forest management after. Post-tree photos show the trees are well spaced, broken in sunlight hitting the forest floor, and pruning debris left on the forest floor for added nutrient value and lying flat to minimize fuels risk. So this is more typical. It would be good to have a little bit more understory development in the photo on the left. So interplanting of native shrubs can be recommended, and possibly some shade tolerant native grasses. Funding that we have available for forestry, $450,000 per year, is a multi-county fund. So there are 9 counties in the basin. We share that pot of money. We get $50,000 up as an allocation, but if we need more, we typically can ask for more. The funding helps cover forest management plan development, so strategic planning and management, forest resiliency and production, thinning and interplanting where needed, wildfire hazard, biomass accumulation / pruning and brush control is needed, and then terrestrial habitat for wildlife, which includes adding some species diversity, maybe some downed woods, snags, bird boxes, whatever the needs are.
Next we have Dave Thompson.
He's a real expert.
I'm just a guy in a suit. Well, my suit's blue jeans and a t-shirt. Good morning. My name is Dave Thompson. I'm a stewardship forester with the Oregon Department of Forestry. And I was asked to come up and talk a little bit about the Oregon Forest Practices Act. If you have forest or timber on your property, you're probably going to deal with me at some point in time if you do any kind of management. So basically, I'm just giving you an overview of the Forest Practices Act, how it may impact you, and some major changes that are coming up to it. I do not have a slideshow program, sorry, but I didn't trust any of the electronics today, so I'm just gonna read a little bit for you. So the Oregon Forest Practices Act started in 1971, passed by the Oregon legislature. The act sets standards for all commercial activities involving establishment, management, and harvesting of trees on Oregon's private forest lands. It details the requirements for harvest methods, forest road building, stream protection, harvesting on steep slopes, reforestation, and protection for fish and wildlife. It gives the Board of Forestry primary responsibility to interpret the act and set rules for commercial forest operations. The Oregon Department of Forestry, in turn, is responsible for enforcing those requirements through education, engineering, and when needed, enforcement. We enforce the requirements through reviewing operational plans, commonly referred to as a notification of operations, overseeing operations, providing assistance to landowners and operators when needed, ensuring landowners follow through with the reforestation obligations, investigating complaints, and when needed, enforcing corrective actions. ODF stewardship foresters are available throughout the state. So if you have an idea that you might need to do some sort of management to your timber, please give one of us a call and we can help walk you through the whole process. Throughout its 51-year history, the Forest Practices Act has undergone 22 revisions, mostly minor in nature. Some of the more dramatic revisions occurred with revisions to the stream rules in 1994 and again in 2017. In 2003, rules were adopted to address shallow, rapidly moving landslide and to address public safety. Most recently, in 2022, the Oregon legislature directed the Board of Forestry to adopt updates to the Forest Practices Act based on the recommendations presented by the Private Forest Accord. This will be one of the most significant updates to the Forest Practices Act in its history. Key updates include defining a small forest landowner as one who owns less than 5,000 acres of timberland. Riparian areas will be requiring no-cut stream buffer widths to be larger, depending on the stream type and its location, including new protections for non-fish bearing streams. There will be a standard practice for stream buffer widths designed for large forest landowners and a minimum option as an alternative for qualified small forest landowners. Steep slopes, there will be new rules related to logging on steep slopes, such as retraining trees in certain areas with the intention to provide high-quality habitat to support long-term conservation of stream habitats. Forest roads, there will be new standards that will be required for fish-bearing stream culvert sizes and culvert installation processes. Large forest landowners will be required to complete the forest road inventory assessment, and small forest landowners also will need to complete a less rigorous road condition assessment when filing a notice with the state for plans of harvest their timber. The small forest landowner tax credit, there will be a new rules that include special considerations for small forest landowners through a credit program designed to compensate small forest landowners for lost revenue to exclude timber harvest in the expanding stream buffer zones. And the Oregon Department of Forestry will also establish a small forest landowner office to assist small forest landowners in understanding and following the state's new forest practices and regulations. So basically, there's going to be a new division within the division that is designed specifically for small forest landowners. And there are a lot of lots of stuff in these new rules. I have handouts over there that describe their one-pagers for some of the topics that will be addressed in these new rule changes. So if you want to grab a copy, please feel free to grab one. Best thing to do, give myself or my counterpart, John Clark, a call. If you want us to come out and take a look at your property, we're more than happy to come out and do the walk and talk with you and tell you how to get around, how to deal with the new rules that are coming up. Thank you.
All right, the next major thing that we've got to talk about is oak restoration. Specifically oak restoration for wildlife feeds. This between Evelyn and I, between the NRCS and other funds of money, we have two major oak programs. We have we first have the RCPP program, which is a fund of money from the NRCS, which is treated slightly different than the other funds of money the NRCS get, but effectively going to be accomplishing the same goals of wildlife habitat restoration and structural oak improvements in the county. The RCPP program is more or less concentrated, or at least skewed, prioritizing the southern portion of Polk County, as that's been an area that's been a bit underserved by prior oak programs before. We also then have another pot of money for North Polk County as well too. That is from traditional EQIP funds, a program that's been around with NRCS for a long time. Between those two piles of money, it's almost $1.5 million or so combined between the two of them that are available for these funds. So projects can be quite large, for these if landowners are willing to take on something of a large scope. These programs also are really a comprehensive tool set. It is something that is that we've really been trying to refine a little bit better, instead of trying to do piecemeal oak restoration work of having one program do heavy lifting and other programs act as follow-up practices. We really are trying to we really have an opportunity here to give people a lot of initial on the ground work, and then continued maintenance and follow-up in future years with these programs right now. All of these also were developed with a focus on TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, and other other techniques and other prioritizations that we have developed mainly with our context and in partnership with the Confederated Tribe of Grand Ronde. Our new director Lindsay was one of those folks who on that side now was one of the ones that definitely helped us out, really heavily involved in that. That is something that we can give, we can prioritize folks who are willing to go fully into native grasses, into and being able to give you the amount of habitat restoration to get there. And also focusing on not just the native species, but other priorities like fire restoration as well too, and things like that that we have out there. I don't want to miss out and talking about the meadow restoration program as well too. That's another one that's mainly designed for sort of for meadow creation and and enhancements in upland fir, lowland oaks as well too. A lot of these, this is a continuation of a program that we used to refer to as the Elk Meadows program. So it has it has a bit of a focus on that as well too. This has been a priority for Polk County with NRCS and the SWCD for 7-ish years in running, perhaps a bit more. And these programs are going to continue on as a high priority for the next several years as well too. So these funds are going to be here. So this is something that we'd like to say that we can count on being able to help folks with, whether or not they can feel like they can act immediately, or if they need a little bit of time. But we do have the resources available if you're ready for it. And I think that's about all we have for that. Oh, and NRCS Oregon's page does have a fantastic tool and mapping to show where the geographic areas where all of these programs are. It is pretty easy to find just on NRCS Oregon. So we'll leave it at that there for the next speaker. Oh, you? Oh yeah, that's right. It's like that's, and then we're into the other funding sources part. Yes. Okay. All right. Other funding sources, there's some other things that we have mentioned as well too. OWEB grants, small grants, are something that. Once we have a little bit more capacity, we have a little bit more staff again, we'll be able to say consistently be able to offer a bit more, but they are restoration dollars both for. Agricultural enhancements, ag water quality, say related issues, upland wildlife habitat issues, repairing area plantings. It's across the board, anything that can say that can ultimately be tied to ag water quality, which is a good number of both farming practices and heavy use area creations and things like that, all the way through habitat work. We also have, there's also the upland and repairing area wildlife habitat program. That is something that ODF and W has made available in years past and had been mothballed a bit, and we have been working SWCDs across the Willamette Valley to jumpstart again, and we're well on the way to making that happen. A wildlife habitat tax deferral program works exactly as the agriculture and forestry deferrals that you typically see. It is something that's available in Polk County theoretically, but we're trying to get more folks actually be able to administer those programs. We're well on the way for that to happen. Really happy to see it. ODF and W also does have a number of other programs like helping to provide fish screens for any, water intakes. They have a repairing area tax credit program as well too. If you have good habitat on those things, repairing area tax credit can be stacked with CREP and other type of programs, small grants as well too. And then we have got the several other ones from easement programs from NRCS. They focus both on ag lands and wetland reserve, wetland reserve sort of programming as well too. The forest resiliency pool as well as there. They touch on animal feeding operations, erosions in orchards. There's, I think that's one more. Yep, no, okay, yes, and yep, that's it. This NRCS does cover so many other topics besides our priorities that we've had here. We'll get to.
Don't need the money, right? So the word is that we are going to be getting a lot of money. And the new Inflation Reduction Act, being of Irish descent and having an acronym IRA is kind of like. And so anyway, in addition to what Mark said, the financial picture there for oak restoration, the RCPP was able to secure 1.25 million for that effort. And then the memo has another, it was 150,000 a year for 5 years. So it's a pretty good chunk of money. If you want to find out about programs and funding availability, you can go to the NRCS Oregon NRCS website, type in what's available in my county and select Polk County, and you'll be able to get that. Mark covered the primary programs. In addition to that, we have national initiatives for high tunnels, organic transition, energy, air quality. Some of those are specialized, like you need a strategic plan for if you're going to do water quality or air quality. Conservation incentive contracts, which is a version EQIP, Environmental Quality Incentive Program, is our largest program. It's our general pot of money. And I have 1 minute, so we're gonna blitz right through this. So there are many versions. There's EQIP, which fixes resource concerns. There's stewardship, which adds enhancements to the landscape that are above and beyond a good stewardship level of land management. Like Mark said, there are easements, and then there's riparian restoration. And I'm next. So we're going to move on and talk a little bit about climate resiliency for agricultural producers. I know the terminology can be off-putting. The terms climate resiliency or climate change can generate mixed reactions among agricultural producers, coupled with global warming and but I'd like to help provide some clarification to that and give relevant and practical scientific information to help agricultural producers be prepared for and be more resilient to changing weather and climate patterns. The information I'm going to present came from Climate Hub, which is a national presentation at the National Tech Center for NRCS. Greg Zwicky is our air quality specialist, and he put this presentation together with some of his peers. Regardless of the cause, interruptions in agricultural production have a very real impact on food and fiber production. Erratic weather patterns wreak havoc on production, so being proactive, prepared, and resilient are critical to maintaining a predictable agricultural and forestry production forecast. The role of NRCS in this is to provide sound science and improve understanding of climate change impacts, responses, and actions. Science, mitigation, and adaptation all work together to create a resilient landscape of agricultural and forest production. Climate smart ag and forestry. Climate incorporate both mitigation and adaptation by reducing and removing greenhouse gases and adapting farming and ranching and forestry management to build resilience while at the same time increasing agricultural productivity, income, and sustainability. About 11% of greenhouse gases comes from agricultural alone. And that's a national statistic. If you look at this diagram, you can see the cycles of different inputs and what is released from those inputs. Carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide and methane are the three primary greenhouse gases. Methane comes predominantly from enteric fermentation, so out of the mouth of cows, as well as from manure management or mismanagement. Nitrous oxide from fertilizers, manure, soil respiration, and burning operations. So think about some of those landscape management tools. Carbon dioxide from organic decomposition, soil respiration, and burning. Management of natural resources, including vegetation, tillage, manure, soil amendments, burning, and decomposition. Basically, all aspects of production either contribute to or reduce greenhouse gas emissions. All greenhouse gases can be reduced through various mitigating practices and adapting to new management. There are a lot of intervention opportunities and many that align nicely with several NRCS conservation practices to be climate solutions. Why agricultural mitigation and why do we need mitigation to reduce greenhouse gases? U.S. agricultural production produced 17% of global greenhouse gases in 2018, which was actually down from 24% in 2005. 11% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions in 2020 was from agricultural and forest production, which was up about 2% from the last 3 years. Of the 11% total U.S. greenhouse gases, 42% was methane and 80% nitrous oxide, the primary contributors, cows, fertilizers, and tillage. The point is not to give agriculture a black eye, but to identify the sources and zone in on the fact that these are all components of agriculture that are necessary, but can be mitigated through changing management to decrease their contribution to the production of and accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, reduce climate volatility, and secure the continuity of agriculture, food, and fiber production. The United States is committed to achieving 50 to 52% reduction by 2030 from 2005 levels. So we've already made some progress. NRCS provides funding and technical assistance to help producers contribute to achieving this goal. How do we mitigate? In order to address air quality resource concerns, we have to look at nitrogen fertilizer, carbon stock, and confined animal production. NRCS conservation practices are working as climate solutions on private lands. Cover crops, conservation buffers, conservation tillage, and all improve soil organic matter and consume carbon dioxide by adding vegetation to the landscape and keeping it in the soil. Anaerobic digesters on dairies are reducing methane gas from ag waste. Intensive management of fertilizer application is reducing nitrous oxide. Alternatives to burning are helping reduce CO2 and particulates into the atmosphere. Riparian buffers, where erosion occurs due to a lack of vegetation, these sites can be turned into a growing biomass of native plants, predominantly woody native plants, sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and storing it in the plants and soils. This also has a tremendous impact on riparian health, pollinator habitat, other wildlife benefits, and water quality. A lot of atmospheric benefit through this mitigation process can be achieved. That goes back to like the crop program that Mark presented on. Good grazing management promotes increased grass production, soil cover, better nutrition, better health, better feed conversion, and waste management that reduces methane emissions from grazing animals. At the same time, the plants are consuming carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it in the biomass in soils, improving air and soil health. No-till and reduced-till and residue management with continuous cover and growing vegetation on the soil surface with good nitrogen management is putting a lot of carbon back into the soil. Intensive tillage increases erosion and breaks down soil carbon, releasing it back into the atmosphere as CO2. It utilizes more fuel, soil amendments, pest management, time, and risk. Mitigation practices simply cost less. We've got a tremendous ability to mitigate greenhouse gases by changing how the land is managed. Carbon sequestration, growing woody vegetation that is longer growing stores huge amounts of carbon in the woody material and pulls a lot of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And again, cover crops, by growing that vegetation, you will lock in some of the carbon into the soils and provide habitat for a host of beneficial insects, pollinators, and soil microbes. Implementing conservation practice 590, nutrient management, reduces potential greenhouse gas nitrous oxide. Implementing feed management or manure management practices such as the anaerobic digesters, incorporating manure and composting reduces methane emissions. These potent greenhouse gases hold a lot of heat in the atmosphere, and they persist for a long duration, altering climate patterns. If you look at this chart on greenhouse gas emissions, sources from the agricultural sector, you can see the top one there that says agricultural soil management in the U.S. generates nitrous oxide and is the single largest source of greenhouse gases from the USA sector. Nitrous oxide from fertilizer is followed by methane from fermentation from cows. That is followed by manure management from livestock, then rice cultivation, then urea fertilizer, liming, and field burning. From this graph, you can see there are a number of intervention opportunities. The three greenhouse gases that are predominantly within the ag sector are carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. The NRCS Tech Center has developed a list of conservation, climate smart agriculture and forestry conservation practices that have mitigation benefits. Mitigation with quantifiable benefits, so they can measure it. This list is readily available, dynamic, and has been updated for 2023 and will continue to be improved. So the resources available are listed here. I know that's a lot, but if you want any of them, we can provide them. The fiscal year 23 climate smart mitigation list is a list of NRCS practices that mitigate greenhouse gases. Comet tools, which are tools for planning and to assist landowners. USDA quantification methodologies and USDA greenhouse gas inventory, how to inventory and quantify greenhouse gases and mitigation benefits, and US greenhouse gas emissions and sinks, which is EPA findings and data on I'm gonna move right on from that into conservation innovation grants. Do I have to answer that? Okay. So I want to follow this climate change presentation with information on conservation innovation grants. Conservation innovation grants is a competitive program that supports the development of new tools, approaches, practices, and technologies to further natural resource conservation on private lands. Through creative problem solving and innovation, conservation innovation grant partners work to address our nation's water quality, air quality, soil health, and wildlife habitat challenges, all while improving operations with new tool information and technologies. So here is a photo of a electronic automated tractor technology, which has an energy and air quality component, as well as a labor component, which is not. Autonomous technologies allow landowners to do more with less human labor, less human risk. If everything works as planned. There are 3 different application types with the conservation innovation grants. There's National CIG Classic, which is national competition for projects that support the early stage development, piloting of new tools, practices, and technologies to further natural resource conservation on private lands. Typically, these are large scale projects, maybe multi-state or regional. State CIG Classic has the same objectives as the national, but they also fund projects that target state identified conservation priorities. So each year, NRCS state offices elect to administer their own CIG competitions. State CIG competitions are announced separately from national competitions, and they typically address resource issues unique to the state or new technology that hasn't been widely adopted. And then there are CIG on-farm trials. This is a national competition for projects that support more widespread adoption and evaluation of innovation conservation approaches in partnership with agricultural producers. So an on-farm trial awardee, which would be the producer, provides technical assistance and incentive payments to producers to help compensate for risks associated with implementation of new conservation practices, systems, and approaches. Awardees also evaluate the environmental, financial, and social, to the extent possible, impacts of implementing innovative approaches. The soil health demo trial is a priority within the on-farm trial competition, which focuses exclusively on implementation of conservation practices and systems that improve soil health. So there's 2 different options. You can go the soil health route, or you can do another type of on-farm trial. In Polk County, we had a producer submit a CIG grant that was approved, and he was awarded funding. His name is Jim Hoffman. He submitted his grant proposal in 2021. It is an online portal that the participant would enter their application in. And his was to demonstrate the viability of an autonomous electric tractor as a substitute for existing diesel-powered machinery on his blueberry and hazelnut operation. Viability will be defined in terms of fuel cost savings and improved labor productivity resulting from autonomous operation. So he's using climate smart technology with 0 emissions. He has partnered with Monarch Tractor, OSU Extension, and Energy to source equipment, gather data, and implement statement. He's deploying the autonomous electric tractor, a data collection and monitoring plan, and 2 industry presentations, 2 field day demonstrations, a final fact sheet, and a closing event are the project deliverables. The result of the project will be discussed at the final closing event, when the project began in 21 and runs through 2024. OSU will publish the results in a journal. Project proposals are submitted into a portal by the applicant. I already said that. The request for proposals is announced annually. So viability will be established at the end of the grant period to determine if this technology is something that NRCS can incorporate into federal programs to provide funding to assist other landowners to adopt the tested technology to resolve resource concerns.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
So I'd like to touch on a little bit more of what Evelyn was talking about with the conservation innovation grants and the technology that's actually kind of available out there. A little bit more about the Monarch tractor. It said all electric, it's designed to run a full day on a charge. So efficient in your operation. It can steer itself with an operator present. And it can also be upgraded to be autonomous. So one person can run multiple units as they do a tedious task in your orchard, like mowing thing. So it's very efficient. This technology is really familiar to operators because it's a tractor. It has a clutch and gears and PTO and can run your implements. Some other things that we can move forward with as ag producers, technology for our orchards, shielded booms to reduce our pesticide drift. And a lot more than just shields. Here we have lots of things going on. Low drift nozzles. Up here we have the tree sensing eye. So we're even reducing our usage to where the sprayer is actually seeing the tree and only putting product right at each tree. In practical experience, you can get down from 10 to 15 gallons an acre to 2 to 4 gallons an acre of water. So it's a large savings in both product use, water, and time. Your operators is able to go further. This is a local manufacturer. They have quite a bit of technology here. It blows clean air over the eye to keep itself clean, so you don't get residue on the eye. So this is kind of to show, this is sawdust, but you can do the same things with fertilizer or lime or other nutrients. This is using an eye, and you can drop product right at each tree. And this could be used again with something like a Monarch tractor, to where the tractor is even driving itself continuously through the field, and you're placing product exactly where it needs to go. This eye, this is actually from what I did before I did this. This is literally a $35 eye off of Amazon that is able to do this. More of the technology is getting even better and better and more operator friendly. So we have more into spraying with conservation purposes. This is kind of a traditional air blast sprayer for orchards. Lots of water, lots of volume, lots of stuff going on. Expensive tractor. Spray. You've all seen it in the orchards. So one thing that is going on right now is This is a fully autonomous sprayer. Right. Great.
We couldn't hear anything.
Oh, okay, sorry, so that was a fully autonomous machine, so that's a drone sprayer. Driving itself through the orchard, seeing the tree, spraying at each tree. That is technology that's available today. I've seen it myself, when I had a demo this last summer. One operator can control up to 6 units. In small trees, you can go with an over-the-road boot. Stop there. Forward one. Also, I'm running on short on timer. Aerial drone spraying is technology that's available right now. Again, reducing use with the operator. Also, solids can be used with drones, so think like slug bait or things that would normally go on if you have a small vineyard. You can put on fertilizer with the drone. They have terrain technology, so the slopes are not a problem. And they're pretty tough.
You want to play this?
Yeah. This is.
What's that?
We can stop with it.
I didn't notice that.
There we go. Real quickly, also, drip irrigation for some of the conservation practices, putting water exactly where it needs it. See the wetted line down the tree row. This is 6 to 8 hours of runtime. Really efficient use of water. We've started seeing producers that have actually stopped using sawdust for mulch. And this with the drip tube. Micro sprinklers are another conservation option. Surface water, but more efficient. You can get damage on your drip tube. Coyotes, birds. Burying is the option to prevent that. There's buried drip tube in this orchard. Thank you.
All right. On the presentation, we'll get there. Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right, so just one last thing as far as related to both agriculture easements and wildlife all at the same time. I'd say is a relatively new program that is coming out. The Oregon Agricultural Heritage Program was willed into existence in 2017 by the Oregon State Legislature. But they did not provide any funding for that, for this organization until fairly recently. They have just started taking on staff within the last few months, and they have opened up a very first round of applications for their easing program. But And I say, but as I say, they're still working on a lot of the rules for it and things like that. But I just wanted to make sure that this is something that folks are aware of existing. It is something that I'm looking forward to as a new way forward, as the, the former largest pot of money for easements and such was the Willamette Wildlife Mitigation Program, which was administered by ODF and W. That program is coming to a close, both in funding and in time frame in 2026. So looking forward to this being a new option for, landowners who are both trying to retain wildlife habitat benefits and working agricultural lands statewide, not necessarily just in the Willamette Valley, but there you are. And I think that is, and it's not just, as I said, they don't have it as an option yet, but they will not be doing just easements. They will also be doing, estate planning and restoration work, with landowners that they are, that are able, that are eligible for their programming as well too. So it will be a bit more comprehensive than just acquiring lands for wildlife habitat mitigation exclusively. All right, and that's what we got on that.
Hello, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces today. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Haley White. And I work for the OSU Extension Service with the Small Farms Program. And I serve both Polk and Marion County. And so a little bit of what we do is we provide technical advice, resources, and programming to small farmers in those counties. We've taken a lot of small farm questions from a variety of farmers, a lot of new and beginning farmers, as well as people who have been working for a long time in the county. So it's a great job. I get a lot of mix of experiences, and I'm both in and outside the office. I also do site visits. Here are some pictures from around Polk County. And one of our most recent programs that I wanted to highlight was on Wednesday, we hosted a webinar presented by Spark Northwest, which is through the USDA. But it was based on renewable energy options for small farms and rural landowners. And so it was very interesting and talk about the different options: wind, water, solar, ways that farmers can incorporate renewable energy onto their farms. And then also there are options for people who just have rural properties as well, not necessarily only farm businesses. So that is something you're interested in. I'll be getting that recording out soon so folks can view that if we can make it loud. Some other things that we have coming up is our statewide team is putting together the Small Farms Conference, which is held in Corvallis. And it'll be on February 18th. So if that's something you're interested in, just come talk to me. And see if I'm missing anything else I need to highlight there. But we also are big on community and industry partnerships. The Polk SWCD, I know the Lucky Butte Watershed Council is here too, and NRCS. We believe in collaboration and partnering with other great like-minded organizations. So that's. And if you're wondering how you can stay in touch, we have a variety of ways. I have a monthly newsletter for small farms. We highlight our program events, our statewide events, partner events, and other important news and information that we need to get out to small farmers. We have a farmer to farmer email network. This is relatively new, but this is for farmers to, a lot of times want to hear from other farmers on experiences they had, get suggestions on other things. So it's just a network just for farmers. We're also on social media, so we're on Facebook and Instagram. We get a lot of events out through there as well. So if that's a way that you like to tap in, that's an option. And so the biggest thing was just introducing myself and our program, and happy to be here. Thank you for hosting.
Okay, I think we've gone a little bit over on time, so I thank you for your patience. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, please write them on the note cards and put them in the little basket in the center of the table, and we'll go over them after I'm done talking here. Okay, so my role as the outreach coordinator is to build relationships with the community centered on promoting environmental stewardship, delivering and sharing natural resource conservation, education, our technical assistance programs. I also work to establish new and strengthen old partnerships with community members and organizations. So some of the outreach that we have been doing over the years is our newsletter Cultivating that we do in partnership with OSU Extension. We have several copies on the table that comes out quarterly. We publish articles about updates to programs and funding. Also, our website is active. And then we have an e-blast email that goes out every couple of weeks or so. We also send out postcards, like for example, with our prep program. You can follow us on Facebook to find out about upcoming events. We're active at the farmers markets, the Polk County Fair, at our conservation easements. We've had bird walks, plant walk, oak restoration tour, webinars, just to name a few. And some of our upcoming events, March 4th, we'll be partnering with Friends of Trees at Orchard Heights Park to plant native trees there. We're looking for some volunteers for that. Also, our native plant sale is next weekend. There are still some available for pre-order, or you can come in person to purchase. And then also March 18th, we're partnering with the Lucky Mute Watershed Council. Thank you, Kristen here, yay. And the City of Independence. The organizer for that is Samantha Bartling with the Willamette Valley Refuge Complex. So we're going to have the first field station in Polk County. This has been going on for 4 years, so I'm excited to bring that. It'll be at Riverview Park in Independence, where it's a bilingual, accessible, family-friendly event where kids can come and learn about how animals are adapted to living in the water. We have some new stickers. The one on the left, the artwork from that came from one of our volunteers. She's also a volunteer with the Delbert Hunter Arboretum. And then on the left, a shout out to Commander's Blue Butterfly and it moving out of endangered status to threatened status. So stickers are over there on the table. Please feel free to grab some. We plan on having barn hall meetings, inviting a couple of our directors. They'll be in different places around the county where the community can come to hear about projects that we have going on in that area, programs, and they can also express their concerns related to natural resources. And something we started in 2022 was our conservation spotlight. This is in partnership with Marion SWCD and OSU Small Farms Program. Haley was my last interview for that. So recordings are also available through our website. If you're ever interested in being interviewed, I'm always looking for someone to interview. Okay, and we're looking to build up our volunteer program, which I would love to call our conservation crew, where they can come out to our easements to help plant native plants, remove invasive species, do weed pulls around the county. And then we'll be reinstating our scholarship funded by money proceeds from our native plant sale. Our sales did double from fall of 2021 to 2022. So I'm very excited about that. And lastly, you can find resources on our website. We take resources to our farmers markets that we attend and our events. You can find information about forestry, emerald ash borer, oak restoration, native plants, traditional ecological knowledge, agriculture, water conservation, and more. All right. Okay, so now it is time for questions. So, did you collect question?
Yes.
No. Okay.
I think that's everybody's question.
Okay. New forest requirements. What will be the impact on urban riparian areas?
Good question.
Who would like to?
It's really neat.
In relation to the updated forest
I'm pretty
practices.
sure, yeah.
Believe so.
Okay. I do not at this point know if there's any additional impacts to the urban area. Most of the forest practices rules are designed for outside of the city and the urban work boundary areas. So I would have to research that for you.
I think we'll have time to get to all of our questions. If we don't, our plan is to send an email to everyone that attended and registered, and we'll be sure to answer all of the questions and follow up on these. Okay, next is, was the wildlife deferral altered?
Got this one, yeah.
Okay.
This one came in from, say from Zoom. So with the, say the hopefully upcoming changes, say with the wildlife, say tax deferral program, that is a part of that overhaul is going to include new, say, ODF&W's new ways of writing these management plans that will fit into a wildlife deferral rather than trying to shoehorn oak wildlife habitat into a forestry deferral where by code, the say the county assessor's offices can look at that and say and see that it doesn't match the legal definition of what the forestry deferral is. So hopefully when we've got the wildlife deferrals open back more, it will include forest management plans that do match say the wildlife habitat goals rather than a forest management goal set, say in order to just stay within the legal definition of a forestry deferral. It'll fit in much better wildlife deferral instead, as I say, and be a better fitting slot for that.
Thanks, Mark. Do drones test soil in real time using satellite imagery to determine dispersal, to keep from overuse of products, to keep costs down for the agricultural community?
Yes, they do, and even better than satellite imagery. The current technology is, you have a multispectral camera that you put on the drone. You can literally fly it, fly your field, fly your timber stand half an hour before your application, and literally build your map of where you need to put your product the day that you're going to apply it. The technology is real and it works.
Thank you. This is for you too. Does the Monarch work via internet or direct satellite in areas where typical signal coverage is unstable or non-existent?
I'm not 100% sure on the Monarch. I do know several of the autonomous technologies out there for driving are using programs very similar to like self-driving automobiles. So as you set up your map, if it loses satellite coverage or you have very minimal satellite coverage, the tractor or sprayer is actually using cameras and radar to guide itself down the field, and it's not really relying on GPS. So having vague or no GPS symbol is not an unsurmountable problem. It will can give you some problems, but there's plenty to kind of work without it.
I think it works off a lot of that one. It's not like a live stream. So it downloads your map and then you program it once and then it knows what. Your internet glitches, your tractor doesn't stop.
Thank you. Is there a group which coordinates purchasing and use of no-till farm and forest equipment? Or are there agencies which loan or demonstrate no-till equipment?
Read that again.
Is there a group which coordinates purchasing and use of no-till farm and forest equipment?
I don't know of one, that's kind of an industry, I'm gonna say an industry proprietary. You might have better.
Some SWCDs have equipment. Currently, Polk does not have anything. I believe Yamhill has a no-till drill. That, it would be possible to borrow. I would imagine if we asked nicely.
But I think in terms of testing it, that would be something more related to a farm show or a ag conference that landowners can go to. We have a big one in Albany annually, and those would be good questions to ask independent viewers. They can show you all the bells and whistles of their latest invention.
Okay. And can you please send out links to the various funding opportunities that were presented? Absolutely. I'll send a follow-up email to everyone with those links and resources. And we have just 2 minutes left. Does anyone else have any burning questions? Okay. Yes, Liz.
It's not working land related, but did you highlight any of the things that the Water Conservation District has been doing or done with municipality partners? Environments that you worked in?
I'm gonna defer to Mark because he's the veteran here.
Sure. I was gonna say the Polk SWCD does actually have has had a fairly long gap of times with any active within the urban growth boundary projects. The artificial large woody debris structures along the Rick Rial right in town in Dallas was something that that the SWCD had a major part in, which dates back about close to 15 years now, I think. So that sounds about right to me. We have had few opportunities to work with with municipalities in ways that we could actually find that we were able to find programs that they were eligible for that we could offer is often one of our biggest problems. But there certainly is no shortage of opportunities for for riparian streams within urban areas and things like that, where the SWCD can do some work. Come to think of it now, we did have a couple of plantings along with the city of Dallas and some of the some of the park systems in there. But again, that was a relatively small scale OWEB grants. OWEB small grants, and again, pushing probably about 8 years back now. So I'd love to see it. I'd love to have the capacity for more folks to be able to do it, but that's going to require some more capacity on our side as well too. So, yeah, no problem.
Mr. Easterly.
A specific example here in West Salem has been a support either through funding projects within West Salem over the years. Example, supporting the Oak Savannah, which is behind the fire station over on Orchard Heights. The district has put funding towards a long-term Lid Gibson watershed project called the fish ladder along Gibson Glen Creek over in the area by Salem Town. I could go over a long list, but there has been a strong support by the Soil and Water Conservation District over the life of the Glen Gibson Watershed Company.
Thank you. I'm happy to take one more question. Yes, Derek.
I was thinking back on some of the financial incentive programs or programs. Are there any funds that are available for road ditches out in the county that obviously border ag lands? So I'm thinking of vegetation.
Getting into easement territory there. So we haven't. I mean, the way our programs are set up is to work with private landowners, but there's nothing to say we couldn't partner with the county on maybe a larger scale project and landowners to help address some of those issues where maybe it's 50%. But it hasn't been done yet. And on the front of incentive, question about the no-till and equipment and funding available for that. We do not assist with the purchase of equipment directly, but through the adoption of no-till practices, we have management incentive payments for those types of conversions, and that does help offset the cost of equipment purchase. Just want to throw that.
Thank you. I do believe you now have a feedback form. We would really appreciate you filling that out. Your feedback on the presentation in general, but also on the top priorities for the natural resource concerns. There's also an optional demographics form from NRCS. With that, we're going to see who won some Polk SWCD swag. Yeah. Okay, so for the winter cap, that number 964-482. 964-482. For our cap, 964-480. Okay. David, our Director of Finances.
I'll put it back in. I've already got it.
Oh, swap it for a winter hat if you'd like one.
A what?
Winter hat. I'll have it to you.
Oh, that's all right.
Going back to the winter hat, 964-482. Um, 964-478. Okay. And for the Wings of Life pollinator poster, 964-493.
Oh, that.
Well done.
You have a rubber band, maybe. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming, all of our partners in conservation. community members that are invested, land managers, really appreciate your time. Please help yourself. We've got lots of pastries and fruits, pieces. Want to stick around and network, and we'd love to just have a one-on-one conversation with you. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
You can be just saying, you know, what I think you do all the time. It's coming.
Prior excellent tech support back here.
Not really, but thank you.
How are you doing today?